At 6:02 a.m., a Russian Mi-8 transport helicopter lifted off from a forward operating base in It carried an entire squad of assault troops toward the front. In our terms, the profile was textbook low-hugging roads, slipping below radar, running dark, and keeping radio silence. To the crew, this was just another into the gray. They had no clue 3 Ukrainian drone crews had been waiting since 4 a.m. waiting in the freezing mist for that distinct engine hum. This was not a standard factory-built air defense. No, these were modified racing quadcopters with RPG warheads strapped to their frames, deadly garage-built gear. Weaponry never tested against a helicopter in live combat. In 20 minutes, these improvised, attempting an unprecedented tactical feat, intercepting and bringing down a fast-moving combat helicopter the operation did not begin with a launch. It began with intelligence. Weeks earlier, local partisans took action. They had deployed an acoustic sensor network across the entire sector. Cheap smartphones with external mics were hidden in trash, fake rocks, and tree lines, all linked via a low-power tactical radio web. Each listening node monitored for the signature low-frequency thump of rotors. If that sound crossed our program threshold, the device logged the precise millisecond of arrival and transmitted a tiny data packet. Since our software could compare multiple timestamps to triangulate the exact source of the sound. The system could pinpoint a low-flying aircraft within tens of meters over kilometers away through fog and dense forest. Around 6:10, a single node spiked. Seconds later, 2 more triggered. Right on target. Hidden in 3 separate sectors, 3 of our operators felt their tactical tablets buzz at the contact updated on their shared screen, bearing 285 speed, 150 kilometers. Altitude 40 meters. Our teams had deployed along the 3 most likely avenues of approach, covering the highway, the northern farm paths, and the southern river corridor. A single miscalculation meant the transport would slip by, and those assault troops would breach our lines the old-fashioned way. There would be no second chance. Our highway team launched a recon drone, climbing high to find the target to search the sector. Our northern crew scanned their feed with no contact. Down south, the river team waited, analyzing the engagement geometry, 3 corridors known target speed and a fixed low-altitude band, and only minutes to react. Atmospheric conditions favored us. A cold temperature inversion kept the noise. Rather than dispersing, the sound waves bent back down, broadcasting the helicopter's approach over a massive distance. This gave our network early acoustic detection. On a rugged tactical tablet, the mission commander the track refreshed with every acoustic ping. Our tactical model of enemy behavior was simple: fly low, avoid radar, follow predictable roads in contested airspace, and maintain speed. If our assumptions held, 8 minutes before the target entered our kill zone, our assets had to be airborne and in position immediately. But plans rarely survive first contact. A new vector flashed on our screen. They abandoned the main road for a narrow dirt track. Whether fearing artillery or observation, they altered the tack. That sudden deviation forced our ambush to adjust on the fly. Simultaneously, heavy fog began rolling. The mist thickened into a dense wall off the river, completely blanketing everything below 60 meters. Within minutes, our optical sensors would be completely blind. We could hear them, but our video feeds were failing. On the wet ground, our primary interceptor waited a Shrike 10 heavy quadcopter. Built on a racing frame, with high-thrust motors armed with a PG-7R PG warhead. We rigged an impact sensor to generate voltage upon collision. On paper, the concept was highly lethal. In reality, field conditions made it highly fragile. Humidity and rough handling corroded Our operator lay in the wet mud, soldering iron and glue ready, fighting to keep our gear functional, trying to coax one last flight out of a system that belongs in the scrap heap. Behind him, comms grew urgent. Bearing 285 speed, 150, altitude 420. Target has left the main road. On a dirt track, 7 kilometers out. Up north, our secondary operator sprinted to a new intercept point. Transmitter died. Extreme cold drained his controller's power cells to absolute zero. Jammed in a fresh pack, wrapped in thermal warmers, and watched the tactical display reboot. His backup drone was objectively worse on paper, shorter range, weaker signal, but in warfare what matters is, and execution is everything. We have an old saying in the field, if it is stupid and it works, it is not stupid. Our third pilot was already en route, when dense fog swallowed his feed. 1 second he saw tree lines. Next, absolute static. He had to transition immediately to instrument flight, relying on airspeed and internal timing. For over a minute, his war was waged in total blindness, guided target bearing 290 drifting west. I knew the Mi-8 could not simply climb out of this soup. Rising higher meant exposing itself to our air defense radar and inviting an immediate surface-to-air missile. Veering off course risked hitting power lines or unmapped civilian structures. In war, to survive our radar, the enemy was forced into a narrow, highly predictable flight corridor. I ordered my drone teams to establish an ambush along that route. The target would fly. In the rear, a Russian electronic warfare vehicle detected our radio frequency emissions. Their crew began They hunted for a clear control link, but our signal left them with only a chaotic smear. We did not utilize basic fixed hobby frequencies. Our tactical command links hopped out of channels hundreds of times per second. To their electronic warfare monitors, we looked like simple background static. There was no single thread to sever. They knew we were up there, but they could not isolate us. At 6:21, the Mi-8 emerged from the mist exactly where our calculation would. High above the layer, our reconnaissance drone acquired the target. Nose pointed northwest, traveling at 150 kilometers per hour, 40 meters up, hugging that dirt road. On our lead pilot's screen, however, the telemetry was grim. 60% battery, 3 kilometers remaining, and our FPV drone maxed out at 100. The target was faster. Pursuing from behind was impossible, so our pilot plotted a course to where it would be in 2 minutes if it maintained course. Our weapon reached the designated ambush coordinate at 6:23, hovering 5 meters off the deck. Battery down to 40%. Every drop of voltage was critical now. He managed power, carefully pulling back the throttle just to stay airborne. On my monitor, the feed flickered with heavy static, offering brief glimpses of the target road. We chose to rely on analog video. It was noisy and low resolution, but latency was measured in mere milliseconds. Against a fast-moving helicopter, those fractions of a second are life and death. I ordered my backup teams into fallback positions. If our primary strike failed, they were ordered to with their own assets. Near the front line, enemy troops picked up the high-pitched whine of our engines and reported active aerial threats. Meanwhile, their jamming units detected brief spikes of electro flickering across their screens. Then the incoming Mi-8 announced itself through the fog with the heavy signature of its heavy 5-blade rotor picked up by our acoustic sensor. 30 seconds out came the report. Intercept window within 50 meters. The enemy flew blind, operating in total radio silence, completely unaware of any danger not detected by their onboard instruments, oblivious to our killer drone waiting directly in their flight path. Then the fog parted. Our pilot acquired the target, a massive silhouette skimming low over the road. 300 meters out, 40 meters altitude, and exactly 10 seconds from intercept. The enemy crew remained focused on the terrain ahead. Their doctrine prepared them for surface-to-air missiles, not silent hovering threats. At 6:24, the target entered our kill zone. Our pilot pushed the throttle to maximum. 4 engines roared as the drone shot up into violent rotor wash, a chaotic storm of air. The small frame bucked violently as it fought the severe turbulence. Our video feed was nearly blind with interference. Our pilot wrestled the controls to steady. Closure rate was 50 kilometers per hour, but the target was trying to outrun us. Yet our drone climbed relentlessly toward its soft underbelly. We mock battlefields, training our teams to strike fast-moving vehicles with absolute precision. Our second pilot stood by camera active, ready to launch our backup wave. The third remained in reserve. Based on the high-angle footage, we cannot confirm if the Mi-8 crew ever detected the quadcopter ascending through the fog. but the impact is undeniable. At 6:25, the nose cone struck the belly of the helicopter. The PG-7 warhead detonated. The shaped charged copper liner inverted, projecting moving at thousands of meters per second. Plenty to punch through main battle tanks, let alone thin aircraft, shredded the fuselage, severing wiring, bulkheads, and pressurized fuel lines. Flash fire immediately engulfed the aircraft belly as it rolled, shedding burning debris and breaking apart over the fields below. Our reconnaissance asset closed in to record the battle damage, the charred hull, and scattered debris that later to open-source channels. The Russian electronic warfare crew, still tracking a signal hopping rapid, remained unaware of the shootdown until the helicopter's emergency beacon began broadcasting its crash coordinates. By the time that ping hit their command post, the Ukrainian strike cell had already powered their arrays, packed up and displaced before counter-battery fires could respond. I calculate that this entire kill chain cost only $500 in parts, a toy-grade airframe, commercial-grade electronics, and a salvaged rocket-propelled grenade. Success relied on a jerry-rigged acoustic detection net, open-source signals, and basic workshop with spare batteries, combined with 3 operators daring enough to hunt through thick fog and rotor wash. Our adversary, however, lost a multi-million-dollar airframe, an experienced flight crew, and the tactical before they even reached the landing zone. In warfare, the psychological fallout of this strike outlasts the combat helicopter can be hunted this easily. None are safe. From that day on, every loadout faced a lethal new operational variable. Not just the surface-to-air missiles on their threat displays, but the reality somewhere in the zero visibility conditions, a budget drone and a disciplined operator were waiting.